Reduce your heating bills, transform your home, and create a greener future with external wall insulation from Weatherby, the UK's leading supplier of external wall insulation systems. With over 20 years' experience in creating warmer buildings, Weatherby offer cost-effective and flexible solutions to reducing heat loss, condensation, and CO2 emissions. Many of Britain's houses have solid wall construction with little or no insulation, allowing a third of all heat to escape through the walls. This gives the building a very high U value, or rate of heat loss, as the thermal properties of the walls are extremely poor. Installing a Weatherby insulation system to the outside of your house will dramatically reduce the overall U value to meet or even exceed current building regulations. Not only will this reduce your heating bills and carbon emissions, but it will give your home a new lease of life by providing a strong, weatherproof finish in a variety of colours and textures. Weatherby, creating a greener future. Before the Weatherby insulation system can be applied, fixtures and fittings next to the external walls will be taken down, satellite dishes relocated, and downpipes adjusted or temporarily replaced to ensure the walls are protected at all times. The walls are then brushed down to remove any algae or lichen and a fungicidal wash applied. A base rail is fixed around the perimeter of the house at damp-proof course height to provide a reinforced, level finish for the insulation system, with the solid insulation boards sitting on top of this. Specially designed plugs provide a secure and durable attachment to the walls. The lightweight boards are fitted in a staggered pattern, overlapping on the corners to provide a comprehensive insulation envelope around the building, which prevents the heat from escaping, therefore containing it within the house. As the insulation boards are available in a variety of materials and thicknesses, Weatherby can specify a complete insulation system for a wide range of designs and budgets. If required, a wet fix can be applied to straighten out uneven surfaces, and sill and eaves extenders fitted if existing projections are not of a suitable depth. Once the insulation boards are fully installed, all corners and returns are keyed with a scrim adhesive, and PVC reinforced angle beads are lightly embedded in this to give a strong and robust edge around vulnerable areas. The rest of the insulation is then covered in the base coat, and an alkali-resistant reinforcing mesh is bedded into this, providing an impact-resistant layer to the entire facade. Diagonal stress patches are placed at the corners of all openings to ensure comprehensive lateral strength. Once the base coat is dry, a second coat of scrim adhesive is applied, ensuring all the mesh is covered, giving a completely smooth, level surface. When these strengthening layers have fully dried, a primer is painted over the entire house and a silicone render of your choice of colour and texture is applied to give a uniform, weatherproof finish. Removed fixtures and fittings are then reinstated, and your house's transformation is complete. Insulation boards are fitted as before, and a layer of scrim adhesive is applied to cover the entire wall, with alkali-resistant reinforcing mesh lightly embedded and diagonal stress patches again placed around all openings. A special trowel then embeds the mesh and forms the base coat of scrim adhesive into furrows to provide a strong fixing for the dash receiver, and larger powder-coated galvanized reinforced angle beads are fitted around all corners and returns, with temporary fir tree fixings holding these in place. Once the furrowed base coat is dry, a dashing mortar then covers the entire building, ready for the final dash finish, which is available in a wide range of decorative aggregates with complementary mortar colours to suit. A slightly wider reinforced base rail is fixed around the building at damp-proof course level, and insulation boards are placed onto this. These boards will only have minimal fixings at this stage and are again fitted in a staggered pattern with overlapping corners. Over these, a profiled rigid wire mesh is attached using temporary fir tree fixings. Once the mesh sheeting levels have been checked and finalised, permanent metal plugs are used to secure both the wire mesh and the insulation boards to the wall to provide a strong and robust external skin. Brick slips, which are available in a wide variety of colours and textures, are then cemented into place. These can be laid in a variety of bonding patterns, including soldier courses, to suit your required design. Pointing mortar is then applied between the brick slips and smoothed to complete the new facade. Weatherby, creating a greener future. Prior to work starting, a U value should be calculated for the existing property structure and a suitable insulation material and depth selected that will satisfy the design criteria and current building regulations. When applying external wall insulation directly to a masonry or rendered surface, the substrate should be brushed down to remove any friable material, algae or lichen, and a suitable fungicidal wash applied in preparation for the new works. On most projects, pull-out tests must be carried out to measure the pull-out strength of the fixing to meet wind suction loading conditions. This will determine the appropriate fixing type, length, and number per square metre. The length of these fixings will also relate to the insulation type and thickness chosen. Any required full-depth surface profiles should be firmly attached and a suitable base rail placed just above ground level. Care should be taken never to bridge the damp-proof course. The base rail profile is determined by the insulation thickness and the final finish chosen for the wall, and should be drilled at a maximum of 300mm centres using approved Weatherby fixings. Place the first insulation board on the base rail at a corner of the building, flush to the perpendicular wall. This should be secured with the approved Weatherby mechanical fixings determined by the pull-out test at a rate of 8 to 9 per square metre in accordance with the Weatherby fixing pattern included in the project specification. Continue placing additional boards, ensuring a staggered laying pattern is adhered to, with all boards interleaved at external corners. The protruding edge can be easily trimmed using a saw. High-rise buildings or uneven walls may require a bedding adhesive to improve the adhesion and ensure the insulated facade is level. All boards must be tightly butted together to eliminate thermal breaks, with door and window openings easily formed by shaping the insulation boards around the corners. Be careful to avoid joints near the returns. If window openings allow, to prevent cold bridging, a thinner insulation board can be used on window and door reveals and rendered to match the walls. Once the insulation boards are fully installed on the building or facade, the Weatherby scrim adhesive should be mixed to a pliable consistency, left to settle for approximately 5 minutes, and remixed before use. For thin coat systems, corner beads should be cut to length and laid to one side. An initial coat of the scrim adhesive should be applied around the window and door reveals, and the corner beads placed and lightly embedded. Scrim adhesive should then be applied over the rest of the insulation, to a minimum depth of 4 to 6mm, using smooth, upward motions of the trowel. Once all the insulation is covered, a notched trowel should be run horizontally over the entire wall in preparation for the alkali-resistant reinforcing mesh. A notched trowel can also be used to apply the adhesive. The high-strength fabric should be bedded into the top third of scrim adhesive, with the mesh kept taut and fixed from the top down. Trowel the adhesive to ensure the mesh is fully bedded in. Adjacent layers should have a minimum overlap of 75 mm, with no overlaps to be placed within 150 mm of any reveal or corner. Any offcuts should be resized to 300 mm by 200 mm strips and used as additional stress patches for corner reinforcements, bedded in at 45 degrees to all window and door openings to prevent cracking. For thin coat systems, the entire wall should be levelled with a levelling spatula and a damp brush used to clean any profiles and the base rail of any traces of scrim adhesive to ensure a professional finish. Once this first coat has dried, a secondary 2 to 4 mm tight levelling coat of scrim adhesive should be applied over the entire wall surface, ensuring that the mesh is fully covered. A completely smooth, level surface must be achieved, as no further alteration in depth will be possible. This should be allowed to stiffen and then smoothed down using a damp, dry lining sponge. After the second scrim adhesive coat has fully dried and cured, a thoroughly mixed Weatherby primer should be applied over the entire rendered surface. Once the primer is touch dry, the coloured texture coat can be applied. Mix the Weatherby silicone texture to a uniform consistency using a rust-free, low-speed mixer and apply with a stainless steel trowel in a continuous motion, always working to a wet edge. Working in bands, the texture should be applied to the thickness of the grain size and, just prior to setting, evenly polished using a plastic trowel to create a uniform and consistent finish. To ensure colour consistency, elevations must be completed using the same manufacturer's batch number. Be sure to clean off any material from all surfaces. Weatherby products are very difficult to remove once set, and contain pigments which may stain if left to dry. Only a single base coat of scrim adhesive is applied for a dry dash finish, with the alkali-resistant reinforcing mesh embedded into this. The base coat should then be raked to give a suitable key for the dashing mortar. Before the scrim adhesive dries, powder-coated galvanized or stainless steel corner beads, stop beads and movement joints should be applied where required, using appropriate fixings. Galvanized beads must not be used in any circumstances. Weatherby dashing mortar should be mixed to a suitable consistency and applied to a depth to suit the size of the finishing aggregate, usually to an average of 8 mm. Window and door openings should be applied first, with the aggregate thrown in an upward motion onto the wet mortar, ensuring an even distribution of chippings. Mortar is then applied in horizontal strips from the top of the building down, and aggregate thrown onto each area. Always ensure a clear strip is left below each area of dash, so the next area of mortar can be incorporated into this. Mortars and aggregates are supplied in a variety of complementary colours and sizes to suit any design and offer a robust and textured finish to the building. Be sure to clean off any material from all surfaces. Weatherby products are very difficult to remove once set and contain pigments which may stain if left to dry. Insulation is fixed in a staggered bonding pattern with minimal fixings, and a profiled mesh is attached over this using temporary fir tree fixings, the first row of which is placed a brick's width above the base rail. Brick mesh sheets are fitted with a 10 mm staggered vertical joint pattern. The profiled mesh sheets are easily cut to size, and once several have been applied and the alignment is considered satisfactory, permanent steel fixings are installed to hold the mesh and the underlying insulation in place. For areas where the profiled brick mesh cannot be fixed, such as large reveals and soldier courses, they must be pre-treated with adhesive and scrim prior to application of the brick mesh, slips and pistils. Mix a batch of Weatherby brick slip adhesive and butter the back of the pistil corners. These should be applied to all corners and reveals, with bricks easily cut to size using a bench saw or standard tile cutter. The distance between corners and outer edges should be measured to identify the number of bricks required per course and the subsequent width of the vertical pointing joint. Any half brick sizes should be staggered throughout the courses. Every metre, a spirit level should be used to align the brick profiles. Leave the slips to set for approximately 24 hours before applying pointing mortar with a pointing gun, firstly in the vertical, then the horizontal joints. Smooth out all the joints after this using a pointing trowel. When the wall is completely dry, a stiff brush should be used to remove any excess mortar. Architectural features such as coins and soldier courses can also be created to complement the Weatherby render systems. Be sure to clean off any material from all surfaces, including the brick face. Weatherby products are very difficult to remove once set, and contain pigments which may stain if left to dry. Weatherby, creating a greener future.